It's the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast with Alex Trataros, John Meleka, and Raisi on the beat. Let's go.
What's good, everyone? Alex Trataros here with another Jets episode of the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast. And with me, as always, my buddy, my coach, my pal, the man with the plan, the one and only, John Meleka. But before you ask John how he is doing, you know what it is. If you listen to this podcast and you're not yet subscribed, please make sure to do so. We're on all audio listening platforms. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher, you name it. We are there. If you listen to us on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to give us that 5-star rating. And if you listen to us on Apple, please make sure to leave a comment. We're also on Fansided, okay? As you know, we're partnered with Fansided. So if you go over to the Daily Knicks or the Jet Press, you can find the podcast there too if you want to stream it. We're also on YouTube. Knicks, Jets, etc. period. Look for the page, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you know when a new episode drops. And when you watch a video, hit that like button, leave a comment, add to the conversation. Let us know your thoughts. We just dropped a Knicks episode because we're at the 11th pick. We're okay with it. You know, we're just water. It's water. We're okay with it. It's not like when we had the opportunity to be number 1 overall for Zion, but we're okay with it. We're okay with it. But make sure to add to this conversation too. And while you're over there, we got another podcast, Winning Picks Weekly. John, video producer Greg, co-host our boy Chip Murphy. They go down every single sport. If you need to place money on the line, you need a bet, go listen to these guys. NHL, MLB, NFL, NBA, PGA. They got you everything. Everything. They got you all covered. Surprising. Have you guys done soccer yet? So hard to keep up with all the sports. Oh,
hell
my
yeah,
God.
I've done soccer. Yo, I mean, the UEFA Champions League's coming up. I was just telling Greg off camera about my Castellanos top goal scorer. He just got another penalty today. Let's go.
So if that doesn't tell you what it is already, make sure to go over there. If you need a sport, these guys got you covered. And then last and certainly not least, please make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. We are there. My guy, John, Mr. Meleka. How you doing today, bro? How you feeling?
I'm on edge, man. I'm on edge as we record. The Rangers
Why are you on edge?
The Rangers are up 1-0. There's a minute left.
That's why you're on edge.
In the second period. Things are okay. I would love to steal a game in Carolina. That would be fantastic. So things are going great on that front. On the Knicks front, like you said, everything's, is content. It's good. We could have it was a 12% chance of us messing up. We didn't do it. Proud of us. I'm really, really excited for our franchise. And on the other hand, man, you know what it is with me and the New York Jets. I am injected with hopium. I don't know. I'm seeing stars right now. I'm seeing a green light everywhere I go. I'm really excited about the season.
I hope you're not seeing a green light wherever you go. You're gonna get a traffic ticket, bro. just relax. Take your foot off the pedal once in a while.
Yeah, I'm hyped, man. I'm too hyped. I'm looking at tickets everywhere. I'm already now looking into Jets at Buffalo. I'm hyped, man. I'm hyped. But we got a big guest on today too, and he's hyped as well, especially with the draft picks. So I mean, I'm let's go. Let's get it. How you doing?
That's a fact. I'm good, man. I'm good. As you said, we got a great guest on. I'm excited to talk about Jets today, man. I mean, you talk about hopium. I'm excited. I'm getting ready for the season, man. I'm gearing up for the season. Like I said, this is the most optimistic I've been for this Jets team in a minute. So it's great that we got a great guest on with us today to break it all down. We got Matt O'Leary, okay, host of the Just Jets podcast, and Edge 16 West, if you're subscribed to him on Patreon. All right. And a writer for Odds Checker. If you want to place a bet too, go make sure to check this dude out as well. Matt, our guy. How you doing, man? How you feeling today?
Doing good, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it. See your guys' stuff on Twitter all the time, so it's good to catch up with you finally.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. We were just talking a little bit before we came on here. You were also editor for the Eyes on Isles before you stepped down. You did the podcast as well. And so I know John's going to be excited to talk hockey with you towards the end of this podcast because he's over here watching the Rangers. I know your Islanders. They had a magical run last season. Last season they had a magical run. we'll get some of your takes, see for some of the fan base that listen to us, see how they feel about the Islanders moving forward, and see if there's a little clash. All right, got to have a little bit of clash. Got to have a friendly hometown rivalry.
Sure.
But other than that, let's get into this, man. Let's get into some of the Jets draft talk. John, what do you want to start off with Matt? Anything in particular, or should we just start from the beginning with the draft?
Well, listen, we're gonna toss up a softball here because I know where he wants to start, man. He wants to start with our defense, our number one pick, and Sauce Gardner. He's been I'm sure you've been watching his YouTube, been catching up on his stuff. He's been one of the big proponents about Sauce Gardner all draft process. So let's just start there, man. What do you think of the new secondary setting up DJ Reed with Gardner? Let me start you off with this. Do you think the expectations are too high? I mean, we know you're going to be hyped, but do you think the expectations are too high right now? Is he going to be like the starting corner, like number one?
Yeah, so I think he's going to be the number one corner from the jump, which is asking a lot. But when you're selected that high, I think there's a reason behind that. He can handle it. Now, obviously, his play at Cincinnati, he put up some unbelievable numbers. Like everyone always points to that he didn't allow a touchdown in his 4 years at Cincinnati, which is just an insane stat. I think if people are expecting like that kind of dominance to translate to the NFL level right away, I think they're going to be a little bit mistaken. And again, I'm not down on Sauce. I'm obviously a huge fan of his, but the competition level going from Cincinnati to the NFL is going to be a little bit of an adjustment. So there's going to be some games where he probably allows a couple of big plays and a touchdown here or there along the way. But overall, I think he is going to add an extra element to this defense that they were lacking with the ability to create turnovers. That was something the Jets struggled with a lot last year. And his effort in the run game, I feel like, is something that's very underrated. Like he's a very good tackler, which, people are going to point to his size and length, which is all really great things when you're looking at a cornerback prospect. But his ability and willingness to get involved in the run game, I think, is going to make him an asset too.
Let's go. But like, I'm glad that you pumped the brakes. The first thing that I'm glad you just pumped the brakes a little bit, because all I see, man, everywhere is Cromartie and Revis with DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. Dude, if we could just have like you said, we were terrible not only defending the pass but the run. Like if we could just have a middle of the road defense from our secondary, I would be absolutely ecstatic. Do you think that Bryce Hall is now kind of on the rocks here? Because like if Gardner is the guaranteed starter and then we just paid DJ Reed $30 million guaranteed, where does that leave Hall? Especially because we have two nickel cornerbacks, so he's not going to be there.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I liked Bryce Hall a lot, which is part of the reason why, not that I disliked the Sauce pick. It was more so I was just surprised that that's the direction that they went instead of taking the edge rusher at the top, which it all worked out. You ended up getting your edge rusher, you got your wide receiver, you got a stud corner. Great. I think it was a home run of the first round. But for someone like Bryce Hall, I think for now he is going to be the first guy in the rotation. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but this is the NFL. Injuries happen. I think he will get his playing time, and if teams like to go 4 and 5 wide, so he'll get on the field. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit different with him not as a starting outside corner, but comparatively, like to years gone by, the Jets finally have depth. Like Bryce Hall being a depth guy, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. It shows kind of how good you are at the position now, which really wasn't the case just a year ago.
For sure. And do you have any expectations of Bryce Hall being traded, or do you think they'll keep him for depth throughout the season?
That's
I mean,
tough.
he does have what you got this year, and you got one more season. I mean, I don't put anything past Joe Douglas. This guy's willing to wheel and deal and look for value where he can.
Yeah, that's true with Joe Douglas. You never know what he's going to pull out of his hat. You're on your toes with him. I would be surprised if they moved on, though. Kind of like what I was talking about earlier here is it's the NFL and injuries happen. And we know with this Jets team, especially over the last 2 years, injuries have been a major factor. So like I said, I think he'll get his playing time. And same with Brandon Echols, who I thought was okay last year. Those guys are going to rotate around and
Carter.
And Carter. That's right. Yeah. So there's really a bunch of corners on this roster who are young and going to be coming up together. And, I think they'll all get their reps. Sure, it might not be starting reps, but they'll mix it. I'm not too concerned with that.
For sure.
And
For
too
sure.
many
Now,
too many good corners. Jeez. What
many good
what 1 year has come? Because last year I couldn't even find a CB4. So I mean now we have too many good ones. Do you think that our safeties are going to be able to we're going to be able to kind of put a deodorant on our safeties like with these cornerbacks? Because like Pinocchio is cool, Joyner. I mean, I like Whitehead as a strong safety. He's going to do everything on the run. But just like, do you think they're going to be able to handle the tight ends for sure? Because I mean, on this podcast, for the last maybe 2 years, we've been crying about how many yards, how many touchdowns we give up to tight ends every single game. So do you think that one of these slot cornerbacks, one of these safeties is going to be able to handle it?
You see, so safety and linebacker are the two positions on the defensive side that I'm still a little bit worried out. Like you, I like Whitehead a lot. I think he's going to be a massive addition to this team. He's still extremely young, which is a nice sign. But Joyner was hurt last year. He didn't play at all. And he was kind of
the year before.
Yeah, and the year I was going to say the year before, he was very limited too. So you're asking a lot there. Pinnock flashed, but it was a small sample size. So I don't know, like, do I want to rely on him to be our starter over a full 17-game season? I don't know if I'm at that point yet. I don't trust Ashton Davis as far as I can throw him. I don't want to see him on the field trying to cover anybody.
Welcome to the club.
I'm just outside of, like I said, Whitehead's going to be good, but you got to really hope that Joyner turns back the clock a little bit, because if not, you might be in for some trouble on the back end of this defense.
yeah, definitely for safety. Like John's biggest complaint has been about linebacker. I mean, you hear that the coaches, the front office are like, we're cool at linebacker. Safety, that's why kind of when we were going through the whole draft process, I thought Hamilton could be a realistic option if they wanted to upgrade at safety. But after what they did during the offseason, it's like, okay, maybe they're not going to focus on that for right now. They're willing to do some patchwork there and just put some Band-Aid on it. But I agree with you, Matt. Like, it's going to be interesting going into the season with the safety crew that we have. I'm not sold. Cornerbacks, okay. Safeties, I'm going to be crying, especially if I see Ashton Davis out there. Man, you want to talk about throwing over the top? Damn. I don't care what hurdle race you ran back in college. It ain't going to help you. But you did mention earlier edge rushers, man. And I want to get your opinion on this, because we got a lot of edge rushers now. We got Jermaine Johnson, who we just drafted. Where on this pod, we just love that Joe Douglas moved up to go get him. John was in a frenzy when it came to the 10th pick, and we didn't choose Jermaine Johnson. We're like, wide receiver. I was like, all right, there's all this talk about Jermaine Johnson. I thought we were going to take him at 10, but the fact that they moved up to get him, that's awesome. But we also have Carl Lawson coming back. We got John Franklin Myers. We got Vinny Curry. We got Clemens, Bryce Huff, all these dudes at playing DN. What are your thoughts, man? What do you think the rotation is going to look like? Who do you think? Do you think how much playing time do you think Jermaine Johnson's going to get? What are your opinions on that?
Yeah, so I'm finally happy that it seems like they're putting an emphasis on that position, because it's something they've ignored for way, way, way too long. Way too long. But I was super high on the Carl Lawson signing last year, and in training camp, he was excellent before getting hurt. So I can't wait to see him back on the field. I think he's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch on Sundays. Jermaine Johnson on the other side. You mentioned all the different guys, Huff, Vinny Curry, who I think is a good veteran. You brought in Martin from Houston as well. They're going to rotate these guys. So I don't know if we're going to see the production right away for Jermaine Johnson. Like, I don't think he's going to put up any type of monster sack numbers. I think he'll be like a solid starter, but with the amount that they'll rotate, I don't know if he's going to have that massive impact where he's like pushing the 8 or 10 plus sacks in year one. I think we have to pump the brakes a little bit there, expectation wise. And it's not so that, because he's not talented. He is. I think he'll be, fine in the run game, especially early on, but they're going to move those guys around, and they are so deep on that defensive line. It's just, I don't think he's going to get the snap count to put up those massive numbers his first year.
So what do you expect? Like, so you're saying pump the brakes. So are you expecting like John Franklin Meyer to get playing time over him to begin with? Because, They also extended him too. And as we know from this coaching staff, they're talking about they don't want the edge rushers to be on the field 24/7. They're not expecting high snap counts. They said they want these guys to be fresh. That way they can be at optimal primo service every single time they touch the grass. So are you expecting, I guess, do you think John Franklin Myers is going to start? Because you just said Jermaine Johnson's going to be playing on the other side. Do you think that's even too much of a high expectation for him?
No, I think Jermaine Johnson starts. I think he's listed as a starter and he'll play, a decent amount. I think like if people are expecting 8 or more sacks in the first year, like to me, I'm more around 5 or 6 sacks.
Okay.
And I think he's steady in the run game in his first year. And with edge rushers too, it usually tends to take them a couple of years before they start to really age. But yeah, Franklin Myers, with him specifically, he could play on either the inside or the outside. So I think on more pass rushing downs, he'll definitely move inside, but maybe earlier on in first and second down, maybe he's on the outside and you have, I guess, Sheldon Rankins and Quinnen Williams in the middle at that point with Carl Lawson on the other side. But, like I said, you have depth now at both edge and on the interior. So they're going to mix and match. We saw it a ton last year, and they didn't have the same amount of depth that they do now. So I think we're just going to see it even more so.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely Salah's game on the defense. He definitely likes to rotate. We know that from his San Francisco years. And we didn't even mention Solomon Thomas was also going to be on that line. He's going to demand some playing time. But, dude, it's so funny that we, poo-poo the 5-6 sacks. Last year, Quinnen Williams and John Franklin Myers led the Jets with 6 sacks each. So, that would be fantastic if Jermaine Johnson could come in here as a rookie and get 5 sacks for us and not be the most productive guy on our line. That, to me, is why I'm so excited about this year. We have the depth, like you said, at the front of the D-line. And then as you kind of move back, it kind of, let's say, it lengthens a little bit. But I really hope that the cornerbacks could put some deodorant on the safeties and the D-line could put some deodorant on the linebackers. But the one guy we never mentioned, CJ Mosley, the dude, when he's on, last year he had a really good year. So I'm hoping he gets on board a little bit. But did you mention Garrett Wilson? We got Breece Hall. We traded up for him. Everyone had a little, I was in a frenzy for Jermaine Johnson. The amount of people who started freaking out because we traded up for a running back drove me absolutely crazy. But at the same time, everyone was really happy about drafting a wide receiver at 10. To me, that, I don't know, it's kind of weird. If you shouldn't be mad about one thing and not the other. They're kind of both in the same. What are you doing? It's a premium for both. So, talk to me about the wide receiver depth. Yeah, if you want to mention Denzel Mims, what do you think is going to happen to him? I thought it was really interesting today. Coach Salah was on a podcast interview with Connor Hughes, a Jets writer for The Athletic, and he mentioned how Drake London was good and the size would be good, and that's what the Jets need. But Garrett Wilson was their number one. So I'm wondering, does that translate to Denzel Mims? How do you think Garrett Wilson fits into this offense?
Yeah, so I was definitely someone who wanted them to take a wide receiver with the 10th pick because I think it's important to continue to add and make life super easy for your young quarterback. Corey Davis, I think, will be back and better this year. Too many drops last year, but it felt like an outlier kind of year. I think he'll be back and more consistent this year. Elijah Moore, I think, came on really strong in the second half of last year. I think we'll continue to see him build a connection with Zach. And bringing back Braxton Berrios, I think, is going to help as a nice, he's very, very solid in the punt return and kick return, but being like a 4th or 5th option as a wide receiver, I think is the perfect kind of role for him.
A 4th down king.
Yeah, literally. But Garrett, man, he is such a good route runner. He's going to just find himself open far too much. If Zach has the time, he's going to become one of his favorite targets just by the amount that he's open. I think his route running ability and speed is what gets me most excited. And you mentioned Denzel. So that's such a hard one to pin down. I loved Denzel Mims coming out of Baylor, and I thought he showed a lot of promise as a rookie. That said, last year was a disaster. It was awful. There's no sugarcoating it. He was really, really bad. I'm of the belief that I think he deserves a look in training camp. I think he should maybe be thought of as like a fourth or fifth option, probably fifth option behind Barrios at that point. But if he could be even somewhat close to what he was as a rookie, then that's just even more than what you were originally expecting. If you get anything out of Denzel this year, I think you're happy. The talent is there. He's 6'3" and can run a 4.3 40. Like, you can't really.
Does he know the playbook, Matt? Does he know the playbook? Everyone's been screaming that at me for a year now.
Yeah.
But is he doing the ladder drills right? That's the bigger question.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. I really hope so. He looks like he's in phenomenal shape. Look, I'm rooting for the guy. Like I said, I was a huge fan of him coming out of Baylor, even before the Jets drafted him. I thought he was someone who could have went in the first round, even, to be honest with you. So I like his potential, but yeah, I mean, I think we'd be lying to ourselves here if we said we weren't concerned after last year, because that was just atrocious.
Of course, we got to be concerned. I mean, he's a second rounder. I mean, we've had the curse of second rounders. We don't need another Stephen Hill on our hands, but yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. And we're Knicks fans. Look, we're Knicks fans. So not only do we have to watch or witness Stephen Hill with stone hands, we have to watch Nerlens Noel have stone hands as well. So we're used to this.
Dude, just tell me that he's not Devin Smith, and I'll be happy. Is Gary Wilson not Devin Smith? Like, can someone just tell me that?
Now you're
he's not.
Okay. I agree with that. I think now we're overreacting. But Matt,
I said people have syndrome 33 because they didn't want Hamilton. Like, I have syndrome Ohio State wide receiver. Like, I don't know.
This guy's worried about everything. We gotta calm his nerves a little bit. We get it though. But Matt, who do you think is the true number one wide receiver, and who do you think will be the true number one wide receiver? Is it Garrett Wilson or is it Elijah Moore?
So I think the number one wide receiver title is a little bit overrated. And specifically with this Jets team, I think they're going to spread the ball around, that they might not have someone who's like, oh, that is their number one guy. If I had to guess by who's going to end up with the most receiving yards this year, I lean Elijah Moore, but really with the three that are going to be the main starters, Davis, Moore, and Wilson, who you just drafted, I really see all three of those guys who could be in the, 800 to 1,100 yard range, somewhere in that group. Like, I don't think there's going to be one guy who's like, oh, he puts up 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. I just think they're going to spread the ball around that so much, which is, again, not necessarily a bad thing. It allows you to run a diverse offense. That I don't know if there's going to be one dominant ball hog on this offense.
Can I be honest?
Feel you on that.
Can I be honest? I think we should lower our expectations more on Garrett Wilson than we should on Jermaine Johnson, just while we're on this topic, because, dude, Elijah Moore, like you said, had such a good year last year. He had 530 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, there's no way Garrett Wilson's going to get 600 to 800 yards and a couple touchdowns. Like, I don't know. That for me is my expectation, because what's going to happen here is we're going to look at the stats at the end of the year and say, what a bust. What a bust. How could he have 12 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, right? So that's really what I'm worried about, because not that he's going to become Denzel Mims, but think about what was going on in this fan base. If you could just try to think back to a snapshot last year when Moore wasn't playing so well, we were going nuts. Like, oh, another wide receiver that's going to be a bust. Corey Davis was dropping passes. So do you think that Breece Hall is going to be able to kind of even that out a little bit, like not really put pressure on the wide, or maybe that's the reason that wide receivers don't have the numbers that, like, the fantasy numbers? And also, don't forget about our tight ends. Not only did we draft one, we signed 2, and one of them is a legit pass catcher. So do you think that we should, how do you think that we should grade the success of the wide receivers this year? Is it by the numbers, or are we just do we just need an offense? Because that's what I'm really worried about, because again, Breece Hall, the tight ends, I think everybody's going to eat, like you said.
Yeah, I think there's just so many mouths to feed. You kind of have to look at the context of it. And I think there's no way to know that right now, because we don't know how they're going to distribute the ball. But I think there'll be weeks where maybe it is Garrett Wilson's the one who's, the focal point of the offense. I think it'll, differentiate based on matchups. And you mentioned Breece Hall. and Michael Carter too. Both of those guys are running backs who can catch out of the backfield. So I think having that in addition to having legitimate NFL tight ends, like I don't know what the tight end room was last year, but it wasn't an NFL tight end room. Now this year you have 3 guys who
what do you mean? Croft didn't do it for you, man? Croft and Griffin?
Kenny Yeboah?
I know Yeboah. Actually, Yeboah is probably the one that I like the best of that.
Me too.
Yeah, no, same. I think we're all on the same page with that one.
Yeah, which is saying something there. But that we know. I mean, the last time the Jets were good was in 2009 and 2010, and they had Dustin Keller as that safety blanket for their young quarterback. I think we know how important it is to have a good tight end for your young quarterback. So, yeah, like I don't know. I have a hard time saying like this player has to reach this stat line because I think if they're just functioning on offense and being competitive, then that's really what we need to, set the bar as. I don't think it's if this guy doesn't reach 1,000 yards or whatever we set it as, it's a failure. I don't think that's the way we should look at it.
I agree with that. I mean, it kind of goes back to that whole, I would say second year, like when we had Marquis Sanchez and it was just being distributed well amongst everybody, right? Sure, you had the running backs. It was a ground and pound offense. You knew your running backs were going to get the numbers. But when you look at the wide receivers, tight ends, well, when I say tight ends, I really just mean Dustin Keller. Like it was like all those guys they just kind of got their opportunities dictated on how the game or which games were given to them, right? And speaking of games, let's go to the schedule, man, because, we broke it down last week and you see that you're starting off with the AFC North right out of the gate and not necessarily an easy division, starting out with Ravens week 1. What are your feelings on that, man? For me, before I let you go, I think it'll be a good gauge to see where the Jets are this season, especially for Zach Wilson, Ravens. There's a lot of expectations for them. Lamar Jackson, of course, they traded some of their pieces like Hollywood Brown. They're doing an overhaul as well on their defensive side, especially in the secondary. So this could be a Jets opportunity for Zach Wilson to attack a young secondary and to see what this offense is now that we have pieces. And what you're even talking about offensively, right? It's true, like a San Francisco scheme that we're seeing. Like there was not really, sure, their names out there. You had Deebo Samuel, you had all your running backs out there as well, but everyone ate. And that's kind of what we're seeing over here with the Jets. So are you, with this new Jets offense, with an upgrade on defense, how are you feeling about the first couple of games? Because you're starting out with the AFC North. You're going to have the Dolphins, the Bills, the Patriots before the bye week. It's a pretty good sledding for the Jets to open up before a week 10 bye.
Yeah, the first half is definitely a gauntlet, and starting up against the AFC North isn't going to be easy. I think for me, I look at those first 4 games and I say, if you can come out of there 2-2, I think you got to feel pretty good about yourself. Pick those 2 wins out of any of those 4 teams. For me, the 2 teams that I have circled out of those first 4 are Cleveland and Pittsburgh. And the reason for that is early in the year, we don't know if Deshaun Watson's going to get suspended or not. I think there's a pretty strong chance that he does. And if so, I mean, just look at the matchup. I would hope that Zach Wilson could outplay Jacoby Brissett and that they can win a game. I know the roster around Brissett is still really good in Cleveland, but I look at that as a game that's winnable. And then with Pittsburgh, they're going to be either starting a rookie in Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky, who's, bounced around the league a little bit now at this point. That's another one where it's not the same Heinz Field that you're going into that we were once used to. So, all 4 of these games are tough. And maybe, who knows? Maybe they do steal a win in week 1, or maybe they upset the Bengals again. But I think a realistic and fair expectation for the first 4 is to come out of there and split 2-2.
Okay, so we should be popping bottles if we come out 2-2. That's what Matt's saying on this podcast. You heard it here first. Get the champagne ready. We're all going to be drunk because that means the Jets are then going to the playoffs. Am I right?
I don't know if I'd go that far. I really hope so. It depends.
Oh, come on, Matty. Come on. Give me some optimism over here. I think the Jets are going to be pretty good this season. This is how optimistic I am. I think they're going to have I think they're going to get me some 7-8 wins around there. And with the added playoff spot, I feel like they can make a little bit of noise. I feel like I can go in that direction this season.
Listen, just be in the hunt graphic in the final weeks, and I'd be happy.
Oh my God. We're all on the same page. Just be in the hunt. That's all we want. The hunt.
we don't.
The
we really
bar
don't
is
ask
so
for
low
much.
with this
We don't
team.
ask for much, Alex. We're not asking for championships here. We just want to be in the hunt.
Yeah.
And I agree. We've all come like literally down to earth so much that we're just asking for 2-2. I agree with both of those wins, but the only reason we're giving them is because both teams don't have a quarterback projected right now in those 4 weeks. So being 2-2 really doesn't even prove anything. I agree. I don't think the Bengals are going to be able. I think the Bengals have us circled since that Mike White game. I think they're going to kill us. So I think the pendulum is going to swing on that Ravens game. I really hope that we could do something. We're at home. The fan base. I've never seen the fan base so excited to go to a football game at home in my life than this one. Besides like the playoffs, which was a decade and a half ago. So I agree with you, man. And then jumping after that, if you're saying we're 2-2, then our first home game that we're going to win is going to be against the Dolphins, and that would be our first AFC win with Joe Douglas at the helm. Is that what you're calling right there? Can we at least get that first AFC win against Tua?
Yeah, I think like to me, there's no reason that you can't win your home game against Miami and New England. Like I get, but Buffalo is far and away the best team in the division. I don't think anyone could really argue that. So if you get swept by Buffalo, you get swept by Buffalo. They're just better. I mean,
maybe in the AFC, they might be the best team in the whole AFC.
Yeah, or the league, honestly. Like they seem like a team that's going to go on an absolute tear this year. They lost a heartbreaker of a playoff game and they just loaded up. But the gap between the Jets, New England, Miami, I don't really think is that big. So for me, split with both of those teams. If you can get 2 divisional wins, and like I said, if you get swept by Buffalo, you get swept by Buffalo. But I think you got to win in your division. It's been 2 straight years of going winless in the division.
I like that. So that's 4 wins right there before the break. Could we at least get? We're not going to win in Denver or in Green Bay, right? That's silly.
No, yeah, I think that's asking a lot. I know it's the NFL, crazy things happen, but Russell Wilson. I mean, even without Russell Wilson, Denver is such a tough place to play. And then you add that into the mix. And then, I mean, Green Bay is Green Bay. We know they haven't won a Super Bowl in a little while here, but they're deep in the playoffs every year for a reason. They have arguably one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it.
Yeah, did you remember how they ruined us in the preseason? Like they were laughing at us almost in the preseason. And then Aaron Rodgers was like, yeah, they're good. They'll be better soon. Like it was like almost like talking to like youth camp. So how far a year has come. I'm going to be at that game, so I'm almost guaranteeing a loss for the Jets. But here's for some hope. But that's pretty good. That's pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4 wins before the bye week. And then you think it gets really easy after that, huh?
Yeah, I just think I mean, you look at some of those opponents. The couple that I have circled in the second half of the year, like you can't lose to Chicago, Detroit, or Jacksonville at home. Like you have to find a way to win those 3 games. There's no 7 there. Yeah. And then you're at 7, and obviously 7-10 probably isn't getting you to the playoffs, but that's a step forward. And then maybe add another win in there. If you can get to 8, I feel like that's a pretty nice step forward here in the rebuilding process. But again, it goes back to just those matchups, man, in your home building against teams that you should be in the same competition bracket with, like Chicago, like Detroit, and like Jacksonville. There's no reason why you can't beat those teams.
I really like the way that broke down. And I know the one game that you didn't mention that's circled on Alex's calendar is January 1st at Seattle because he needs revenge on Jamal. And he's going to tag everyone with love all day. I'm ready for that, Alex.
All love. But let me ask you this, man. Is there like, I know, of course, Jets fans, like we look for our divisional games and we circle that. Like any other fan base, the divisional matchups are always key. But even throughout all the games that we just listed, is there any game in particular, or any like 2 games that you think that will really dictate this season for you? Like, what 2 would those be?
Yeah, the divisional ones jump out because those are the teams you play every year. So being able to be in the same competition level with them, I think, is super important. But even like, I mean, you guys just mentioned it. Seattle would just be so nice, especially if like
oh my God.
if we get Elijah Vera Tucker, and maybe like, I think the pinnacle would be Garrett Wilson catching a touchdown over Jamal Adams. That might be like my I don't need to be a fan after that. That'll be enough.
He's one of us, guys. He's one of us.
How about Elijah Vera Tucker pancaking somebody, and in that same clip you see Garrett Wilson catching a one-handed over Jamal Adams? How about that?
I've never seen Alex this excited during the Jets offseason of my whole life, which really worries the hell out of me, if I'm being honest with you.
I told you, man. This season, I've told you, man. I haven't felt this optimistic in a very long time. But I like that. I like those games. For me, like the one that I'm looking at, and it's just for agenda purposes for our video producer Greg, it's the Minnesota Vikings, just because I think that's someone on this podcast likes to have Russell Wilson outside of the top 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL currently. So I gotta make sure that we beat the proper teams in order to make sure
Kirk Cousins. And so right now you have the Vikings and the Broncos circled in your Jet schedule. You might be the only Jets fan on the planet that's worried about those two games, but I love that. That's gonna shape our season. I love it.
Yep,
for me, it's the two
fact.
games around the bye week, man. It's the 2 games surrounding the bye week. If we could beat the Bills, like if we could just sneak off a win against the Bills at home before our bye week, that'd be amazing. Or if we could beat New England in New England after a bye week, especially because if you go to New England schedule, that they have the same exact bye week. I mean, that would be insane for the Jets momentum, in my opinion. Like if you come out of the bye week, beat the Patriots on the road, then the Bears game, like you said, is easy. Then we can go to Minnesota, win, lose in Buffalo, and then we come back for Detroit and Jacksonville, end with Seattle and Miami. Dude, that I'm smashing that over 5.5. I am smashing the over 5.5.
Sure.
That's all I got here. I agree with you, dude. The 7-8 win sounds about right. We could cap it at 10 on a miraculous year, but something at 7 to 9, 9 wins can get us that third wild card. What do you think gets us the wild? What do you think the third wild card spot? What do you think that record is?
And I think it's still 10 wins. I look at that AFC West, man. I think 3 of those teams come out of the AFC West.
But is that logistically even possible? Like if they beat each other up, you know what I mean? Like, do you think that's? I agree. The AFC West is insane. Even when I'm trying to pick divisions, right? I know you're writing for a betting website, so I've been looking at divisions a lot. It's hard to pick anyone. I almost do parlays with just random. I can close my eyes and pick a team in that division. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so wide open, that division. I feel like I'm leaning KC just because, like, I don't know. Until proven otherwise, it's still Kansas City.
Really? They're third. They're third for me. Okay. I know we're a little off the rails here, but I love what the Chargers did, and I feel like for some reason people aren't as high on them this year, and they were higher on them last year, but they significantly improved. And then of course Denver's defense plus Russell Wilson, if he cares about football again. I'm in Mile High. I think that's going to be tough. I'm scared of Kansas City not winning the division, and then like there's no way we're gonna. Like, that's a 1 wild card spot that's done. Yeah, I guess you're right. Like, when I think about it, I'm hoping it's just not logistically possible because I'm thinking about the Jets, honestly. And I'm thinking about the Ravens and the Bengals. Like, all those teams, like the second team from the North and the second team from the East, they're going to have something to say about it. I'm hoping it's the Jets. So we'll see. That's why I'm always curious about that third wild card spot. You think 10 wins, man? 10? Damn.
Yeah,
we're not gonna get to 10.
No, I think it's gonna be
we're not getting to 10, man. No matter how much hopium I have, we're not getting to 10.
Pittsburgh got in with 9 last year, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 2 teams got in with 9 last season.
Yeah, I don't know. The AFC is so good. I don't know.
This is true.
That's fair. All right, that's all I have on the Jets schedule.
Well, hold on. There's one thing, because I know we're over here talking about playoffs and whatnot, but there is one person out there who does not have any faith in this team whatsoever at all. No faith in Zach Wilson, even. Former first-round pick for the Browns back in 2007.
Yes.
Mr. Brady Quinn himself. Now, our guy Matt decided to go in on him. Matt, what are your feelings on Mr. Quinn's comments on not believing in this new revamped New York Jets team?
Yeah, to me, I just think he had to have this, He just had to be not a Zach Wilson guy coming out, because I don't know how you could like have seen enough of Zach to be like, he is 1000% without a doubt not the guy, or 1000% without a doubt the guy. I think most people are like, yeah, he wasn't great last year, but he showed some promise in the second half, and we like his raw traits. So we think, and it's a better roster, we think he can improve, which I think that's like a logical way to look at it. But I don't, to me, if you're all the way out on Zach Wilson, you were never going to give him a chance to begin with. So I think it was an original bias coming in here.
Okay, fair enough. And to be clear, I mean, even I had my concerns for him coming out of the draft. So I wouldn't say I was the biggest Zach supporter when it came by draft time, but I think the thing that you said is that we were able to see him close off the season well enough where we're like, you know what? There is like, we know the arm strength is there. We saw the improv there. The things that were concerning were the short routes, the intermediate routes where he just wasn't connecting. But towards the end of the season, we did see that. So that's what kind of reeled me back in. Like, all right, he just needs an off season. You know what? He just really needs an off season to get everything, figure everything out, and just get comfortable. He's overthinking. I forget who said it. It might have been Connor Hughes on the Can't Wait podcast, but he was saying that Zach Wilson was, instead of going through, like 101 classes, like 101 of QBing, he was going to like class 500, trying to do like these elite, like type of like skills, trying to get the ball downfield. It's like, bro, you're not even there yet. Just go through the basics first before you even get there. This is the NFL. It's not college. So I'm with you on that, Matt. So I'm cool.
We don't care about Brady Quinn, bro. We don't care about Brady Quinn. We're talking about Buck Showalter here, sitting there in his press conferences talking about how the Jets are going to beat the Patriots. Let's go, Buck. Let's go. I love it.
And Matt, you're a Mets fan. So you got to love that talk.
Yeah, I'm all in on the Mets Jets crossover. We've been suffering together for a very long time, so I'm here for it. Buck Showalter's just been a lot of fun. He has a great personality, so I'm all in on that. I love it.
Do you think we're gonna get the Subway Series, man? Greg is the Mets fan here. Alex and I are the Yankees fans, but do you think we're gonna get the Subway Series? Because it's looking like it at the moment. It's early, but it's looking like it.
I think there's a good chance. I mean, the Yankees are playing extremely good baseball. Aaron Judge is playing out of his mind, and this Mets team, they just keep finding ways. I think both teams will be in the playoffs, and you know what? I think New York deserves that, because New York sports has been pretty shitty for a while now. So I think we deserve some love here.
Since 2000, that would be nice. That'd be nice to see. That was the last time we had a legitimate Subway Series, but hey, that'd be fun. And like it's interesting because I feel like the Yankees, they're not necessarily being creative all the time with how they're winning. They're just overpowering teams. But the Mets, it's literally like, oh my God, they're down 5-1. Holy crap. How'd they win 7-5? How'd they figure that out? That team's pretty interesting to watch. I gotta give your team credit, man. I gotta give all the Mets fans, all the Mets people out there some credit, because that team is legitimately doing the stuff. I know John wants to get into this as well before we get you out of here.
That's Matt. So funny because Greg's definitely clipping that for later. Anyway,
yeah, that's the last time you're getting that, Greg. Right? Just remember that. Remember that.
So, but you said New York sports isn't going so well. I'll let you go on the Rangers right now. I won't rub it in. But you were the Islanders guy. You did have the Isles podcast for Fansided. Let's get your take there, man. They were on that magical run last year, like Alex started the podcast with, but now you got Lane Lambert. Like, what do you think is going to happen? And you had that ridiculous year when you went to the Barclays Center. We're so sorry about that. We don't know. That's ridiculous. Like, I don't know how any fan base can come back from that. But you guys are revamping. Like, what are your thoughts on the Islanders?
It's tough. I was crushed when they moved on from Barry Trotz. I thought that was such a mistake. I love Barry. I think he brought them back they were pretty much for 20 years, pretty much irrelevant, but then they went on run after run with him. The first 3 years, first year went to the second round, went to the conference final in 2020, did it again in 2021. They were so close.
Dude, I thought it was happening last year. I legit thought it was happening.
They went all the way to game 7 and lost 1-0 on a shorthanded goal to Tampa Bay. That's about as close as you could humanly possibly get without getting there. So, I mean, it's crushing, but I will say this. Obviously, they didn't make the playoffs this year. As a down year. There were so many factors, whether it was the 13-game road trip to start the year was just a very difficult ask. COVID problems in the beginning of the year. Their pretty much entire roster had it. They were playing with an AHL roster, and I think they're a little bit old on the blue line. I think moving on from Zdeno Chara and Andy Green and getting some younger legs on defense would go a long way.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that Lane Lambert could get a little bit more offense out of some of the younger guys like Barzal, Beauvillier, and Wallstrom. That's your young core, and I think they need to take a little bit of a step up offensively.
It's all about Barzal, right? That's what this is all about. Yeah. do you think it comes together next year?
I think they let him be a little bit more offensive. I loved Trotz, but I think he was so focused on the defensive side that Barzal wasn't really that 80-plus point guy that we saw from his rookie year. So I think he will be more productive, and the Islanders have some cap money to spend for the first time in a little bit. So I think they need to bring in a winger to play with Matt Barzal, and that would go a really long way.
All right. I
Going back
love
to
it.
the playoffs? Going back to the playoffs next year? And if so, how far?
That's
Yeah.
way too early for that,
Yeah.
but I think they will.
Come on, man. These are overreaction predictions. That's the fun.
You're right. Listen, I think if they get a winger to go with Barzal and a top 4 lefty D, I think they could be a playoff team next year. I don't know if they could win it all, but I think they could be back in the mix for a playoff spot if you had a top 6 winger and like a second pairing defenseman.
Because correct me, I'm not a big hockey guy. Not a big hockey guy. Very fair weather. But the Islanders were in the playoffs for a couple of years, like back to back to back, right? Like, wasn't it like 2, 3, maybe even 4 years back, like in the playoffs, like having some solid runs, right?
Yeah, it was 3 years in a row. They went to the second round the first year and then the conference final the last 2 years. So obviously this was a little bit of a down year, but if you could retool it and get back to a similar spot, I think some fans are way out. They think like the window's closed, it's done already. I'm not quite there yet. I still think you have a good core here. I just think you need to retool a couple of things.
Dude,
like I said,
hockey's so emotional.
Yeah, it is.
Like if you're either the best team in the world, like in the game, or literally trash. Your lines suck. Your shifts stink. You don't know how to clear the ball out, clear the puck without an icing. So I know we're talking about playoffs for next year. I know you're watching the playoffs this year, maybe reluctantly a little bit because of my Rangers. But just give me your overall thoughts. We'll get you out of here on some NHL predictions if you want to go conference by conference. You don't have to tell us who's going to win the cup, but if you have hot takes.
So I think I don't know if I could pick to be fair, I did pick the Rangers over the Penguins. I did give you guys that one. I think this is a very tough matchup against the Hurricanes, though. They are a potent offense. It's a little bit different than the matchup you just had with Pittsburgh.
Well, they killed us all year too.
Yeah. So it's gonna be tough. Not impossible, but it's a tough matchup. I like Carolina a whole lot. I think Colorado, they just feel like a team on a mission ever since
they're so fast.
They are. They're so fast, and they could beat you so many different ways too. And ever since they lost in the second round to Vegas last year, I was like, okay, this team, they had high expectations last year. I think they're going to be on a mission this year, and that's been the case so far. So they'd probably be my pick. But in the East, I think it's Carolina. I think they're the team that makes it out of the East.
I mean, that's fair. I agree with you. I'm that's why we're closing in on the third period here. The Hurricanes hit the inner top of the post, and it came off, and really scary stuff. But if we could win one in Carolina, it would be huge. I'm dying for a Lightning Rangers series, but also, like, I didn't even want you to mention Game 7 because that's my nightmare. I think like a Game 7 loss like that, like 1-0 to the Lightning, that would be really tough in the Eastern Conference. So you think Carolina's going to win the whole thing?
I don't know. I'm going back and forth between Carolina or Colorado. I think those are the two teams that come out. I think Calgary could be a sleeper team. I feel like they get really good goalie play, and Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk are both they're dynamic, the two of them together.
So you don't care about Connor McDavid?
No, I think Edmonton's a little bit overrated. I don't trust their goalie play. I know in the first rounds, Mike Smith, I guess, is their goalie. It's either him or Koskinen. They go back and forth, but
it's their jerseys, man. At home, they're just insane. All the red. They have the best jerseys in hockey. I feel like it's impossible to win in Calgary.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And like, sure, for the NHL wants Edmonton their star to go as far as possible, but I don't think the team around him outside of Draisaitl and Kane and McDavid, like outside of those three, I don't think they're really that good, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm like reluctantly watching the West Coast because like I just don't think I don't think it's gonna affect our the Rangers at all. So I'm just watching it for fun. It's easy for me. I don't care either way. But just like watching Calgary is just amazing. Obviously, Avalanche going crazy over there. Oh, I'm stressed, man. I'm really stressed about this. Game 7. I've never experienced a Game 7 at the Garden. So I was at the Penguins game. It was insane. So I'm just really hoping for a little miracle run with these rookies here. They really gave me Knicks vibes all during that game, during that round 1. I'm glad they got out of it. So that's my take on NHL. I know Alex isn't a fan yet, but we're trying to get him on board. We just got Chip Murphy on board. He's watching the Rangers tonight for the first time. A prior Devils fan we got on board. So we're working on it here at Knicks, Jets, etc. But we appreciate you coming on, Matt.
Yeah, man. Anytime. It was a fun time. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Totally. Anytime. We appreciate it. Hopefully you come back on, especially during the season, to talk more Jets. We appreciate you. We appreciate the work that you put out there, man. You put out great content. So thank you for taking the time to come on with us. If you have anything, please let our listeners know where they can find you. If you got anything else coming out that they should be aware of.
Yeah, just you can subscribe on YouTube, Talking Jets over there at Matt O'Leary NY, and pretty much anywhere else on social media at Matt O'Leary NY.
And give them a call.
Yeah, call me up at just 1-800 Matt O'Leary NY. I'm pretty sure that'll work. But yeah, it's a fun time. So check it out if you like the Jets, and I don't know, we go off the rails on some stuff, but we like to have fun.
And the
there you have it.
Tied it up. All right, let's have a ball game. Let's have a game. Let's go. I'm ready.
Well, thank you, Matt, once again. And to our listeners who tuned in, you all know what to do. Please make sure to subscribe. We're on all audio listening platforms. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher, you name it. We are there. If you listen to us on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to give us that 5-star rating. And if you listen to us on Apple, please make sure to leave a comment. We're also on Fansided. If you don't want to download it, you just want to listen to us on the internet, that's okay. Just make sure to go over to the Jet Press or the Daily Knicks. You can find the podcast there. We're also on YouTube, Knicks, Jets, etc. Find the page, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you know when a new episode drops. When you watch a video, hit the like button, leave a comment, engage with us, let us know your thoughts, okay? Especially for this one. Give us your takes on the offense, defense, all the positional needs, our rookies. What do you think on the season, this upcoming season? Who do you think the Jets are going to beat? What do you think the record's going to be? Please make sure to leave a comment, let us know your thoughts. And also, we got another podcast, Winning Picks Weekly. You hear John talking about hockey with Matt. You hear John talking about all these sports. Why? Because he's tuned in. Why? Because he's putting money on the line. This man's giving you the knowledge. He's giving you the knowledge. Make sure to use it. Go over to Winning Picks Weekly. Check out him, video producer Greg, co-host, and our guy, Chip Murphy. And then last and certainly not least, please make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You name it, we are there. Thank you to Matt O'Leary for coming on again. And thank you to you for tuning in for another Jets episode of the Knicks, Jets, etc. podcast. We out.
Let's go Jets. Let's go Rangers. Another game 1 overtime coming, it looks like. Let's go.
Maybe triple overtime again. That was fun.
Dude, I was there too. I needed redemption in game 7. I don't think I ever would have went to another Rangers playoff game.
I went to